All right, welcome back. We are doing notes number 9 today, absolute value equations and inequalities. So what we're going to start with is some really basic ones just to get the feel for what's happening in each case. If we have an equal sign, or if we have a less than sign, or if we have a greater than sign, there's something different that happens in each case. So think about absolute value as the distance from 0. So if the absolute value of x is 3, then what is x so that its distance from 0 would be 3? Well, x would be 3, or x would be negative 3. And if we picture this on a number line, we would have a solid circle at negative 3, a solid circle at 3. Okay, so the key that I want us to remember for this is that we have or in between our choices. So if we take a look at number 1, it says the absolute value of something equals 7. So then we're going to have something or something, just like in the previous one. We're going to have 9 minus 4x could be 7, or 9 minus 4x could be negative 7, because if you take the absolute value of negative 7, you get 7. So just like we saw above with or, anytime it's an absolute value equation, you're going to have or in between. And then you're going to solve each of the equations. So we'll subtract 9 from both sides, and we have negative 4x equals negative 2, and divide both sides by negative 4, and we get x equals 1/2. And then for the other one, subtract 9 from both sides, and we have negative 4x equals negative 16, and divide both sides by negative 4, and we have x equals 4. So put the word or in the answer, x equals 1/2 or x equals 4. Now if you're writing your answer using set notation, you would have braces, 1/2, comma, 4. You would not have parentheses. It's not 1/2, comma, 4 like this, because that is an interval. And remember, an interval has infinitely many numbers from the starting number to the ending number. So we're not using an interval. We only have 2 numbers in this problem. Okay, so now let's go up and look at what happens if we have an absolute value inequality. So we have the absolute value of x is less than or equal to 3. So I'm going to visualize this first. That means we're looking for numbers whose distance from 0 is less than or equal to 3. So that would be 3, negative 3, and everything in between. All of those numbers are 3 or fewer units from 0. So then if we put this into a statement, a mathematical statement, we have numbers where the x value is less than or equal to 3 and also greater than or equal to negative 3. So we can break this down into 2 parts, just like we broke down the equation into 2 parts with the word or in between, but this one breaks down into 2 parts with the word and in between. The and means the intersection or the overlap, as we've seen before. So if you were just graphing x is less than or equal to 3, it would be this. And if you were just graphing x is greater than or equal to negative 3, it would be this. But we're looking for where they overlap, so it's this. Okay, so make a note. If you are solving an absolute value less than or equal to, or just less than situation, you're going to have and in it. So let's look at number 2. The absolute value of 4x minus 6 is less than 10. It's okay that it doesn't say less than or equal to, it just says less than. It's going to break down into 2 parts. 4x minus 6 is less than 10, and 4x minus 6 is greater than negative 10. See, if we look up above, what happened was we had less than or equal to 3, so one of them had less than or equal to 3, and the other one had greater than or equal to negative 3. You always end up switching it like that. So let's go down and solve this. Add 6 to both sides. 4x is less than 16. Divide by 4. X is less than 4. The other one, add 6 to both sides. 4x is greater than negative 4. Divide by 4. X is greater than negative 1. Put it all together with and you may even be able to string it together in one statement. So negative 1 is less than x is less than 4 is what it looks like when you put it all together. So always put an and. Now let's take a look at the one that has a greater than sign. If the absolute value of x is greater than 3, what does that look like? Let's picture this on the number line. So the distance from 0 is greater than 3. So here's 0, here's 3, here's negative 3. We're looking for points that are more than 3 units from 0. So that would be all of these points over here to the right of 3 and all these points over here to the left of negative 3. So then if we write that as a statement, we would have x is greater than 3 for the part on the right, or x is less than negative 3 for the part on the left. So remember, or means you're in one set or you're in the other set. You don't have to be in both sets. So notice that this breaks up into an or statement. So I have a shortcut for remembering this. If I see less than, I think of it as less than, and that reminds me to use and. And if I see greater than, I think of it as greater. And that reminds me to use an or. Less than and greater. So let's go down and do number 3. Number 3 has a greater sign, so I know it's going to break up into an or. So we have 4x minus 6 is greater than 10, or the other one would be 4x minus 6 is less than negative 10. Turn the sign around, make it negative. Now we solve each of these. So 4x is greater than 16, x is greater than 4. And the other one, 4x is less than negative 4, x is less than negative 1. But remember, it's or now, it's not and. So what does this look like? Numbers that are greater than 4 numbers that are less than negative 1. Your answer can be in one set, or the other set doesn't have to be in both. There's no way to string that together. You're just going to put the word or in between. Okay, we're going to do a few more. So here's number 4. The absolute value of 2 minus 5x is less than or equal to negative 5. Okay, there's 2 ways to go about this problem. One way is just to do the algebra. Follow the procedure, kind of like a machine. So it says less than. So we're going to put and in between our 2 statements. So we have 2 minus 5x is less than or equal to negative 5, and 2 minus 5x is greater than or equal to 5. Remember, switch the sign, make it negative, or the opposite of what it was. Solve each one, so we'll subtract 2 from both sides and divide by negative 5. And remember, when we divide by negative, we switch the sign. So we have x is greater than or equal to 7/5. And then for the other one, subtract 2 from both sides, divide by negative 5. Again, switch the sign because we're dividing by a negative. X is less than or equal to 3/5, negative 3/5, with the word and in between. Okay, let's picture this. We're looking at numbers that are both less than or equal to negative 3/5 and greater than or equal to 7/5. They have to be both of these things. Which numbers are both of these things? None of them are. There's no overlap, no intersection. So there's actually no solution. You could put empty set. Okay, I mentioned that there are 2 ways to do this problem. The first way was just doing the algebra. Here's the second way. You got to think. I know that sounds weird, but the second way is to actually just stop and think. Don't just do, but think. So remember, what does absolute value mean? Absolute value means distance from 0. Is absolute value ever negative? No. Absolute value is never negative. It can be 0, but it can't be negative. So, is there a way for it to be less than or equal to negative 5? No, that's not possible. Okay, let's take a look at number 5. Maybe there are 2 ways to do this one as well. We should probably investigate. Let's start by investigating the stop and think method. The absolute value of something is less than 0. Can the absolute value of something ever be less than 0? No. Can't be negative. Not possible. we just saved ourselves a lot of work. We can just put empty set or no solution or something like that. Okay, wrapping it up, we're going to talk about distance on a number line, the distance between two numbers. So let's say these numbers are A and B. These are just numbers on a number line like 5 and 2. What's the distance between 5 and 2? Well, to figure that out, you would subtract them. 5 minus 2, the distance is 3. But what if you don't know which number is bigger than the other? Is A larger or is B larger? We don't know if we should subtract and do A minus B or if we should do B minus A. But either way, we're either going to get what we want or the opposite of what we want. So what if I did 2 minus 5 instead of 5 minus 2? I would get negative 3 instead of 3. So to resolve this problem, let's just take the absolute value of the difference. So if you want the distance between A and B, subtract them and take the absolute value. If you subtract them in the other order and then take the absolute value, that's okay. So instead, I don't want to put it in the same box because you're going to think you have two parts to it. Instead, you could have the absolute value of A minus B. That's the exact same thing. Okay, write an inequality for each statement. And in some cases, maybe it's an equation. Like this one says is, so it's going to be an equation. The distance between x and 4 is 3. Well, we just learned that to get the distance between two things, you subtract them and take the absolute value. So to get the distance between x and 4, we would subtract them and take the absolute value. And that's going to equal 3. The next one says the distance between x and negative 2 is greater than 9. So to get the distance between x and negative 2, we subtract them and take the absolute value, and that's going to be greater than 9. Now we do want to simplify that, so it's going to look like this. The absolute value of x plus 2 is greater than 9. And then for number 7, we're going to set it up as well as solve. So solve for x if the distance between x and negative 1 is less than 5. So first of all, the distance between x and 1, we subtract them and take the absolute value, and that is less than 5. So let's simplify it. The absolute value of x plus 1, whoops, what did I do? I had the wrong sign, didn't I? Less than sign. Sorry about that. The absolute value of x plus 1 is less than 5. Okay, now remember how we solve this. It's less than, so it's less than. So we're going to break it into two parts. X plus 1 is less than 5, and x plus 1 is greater than negative 5. We'll solve each one. X is less than 4, and x is greater than negative 6. We can string that together. X is between negative 6 and 4. And if we wanted to put this in interval notation, just for practice, it would be the open interval from negative 6 to 4. Open because we're not including the endpoints, so round not square, and lower number first, comma, higher number second. Okay, here's your assignment. Thank you guys for your attention today. Have a wonderful afternoon.